Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning into the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Fairway Chevy Collection. And as you might think, it is a collection of Chevrolets, all kinds of years from really old to more recent models. Beautiful collection. We are here through the good graces of Greg Heinrich. Greg, how are you?
Good, Lance.
Thank you very much for being on the show. And tell us, how did this all come about?
Well, my father had a love for Chevrolets. And when we moved here in 1969, once we got ourselves established, he decided that he wanted to start collecting Chevrolets. And by gosh, the one we're in front of here today was the one that started it all. So in the early 70s, we got going on it, and today it's just grown to a much bigger collection.
It was obvious to me as we were preparing for the shoot today and that you're not just a Chev dealer that thinks it's a good idea to save some of this stuff. You're a hardcore car guy.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that, and it's interesting when you look at car dealers, and I've been in the business now for quite a long time, you find out that some of them really do love cars and trucks and love what they do, and then others treat it really as a commodity, which is a shame because there's so much about these vehicles that you can get excited about.
And the retro design of some of the newer cars, you must be real excited about that.
Yeah, the Camaro, when they came out in 2010, was a great example of that. And Chevrolet has gotten a lot of acclaim, been the best-selling vehicle for the 3 years since that car has come out, month in and month out. So I guess the public thinks the same thing.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, this 1930 Chevrolet Coupe, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, the 30 here that we have is, as I said, was the original car in the collection. And when we moved here in 1969, my father unfortunately had to sell the car because we were scrambling to get everything going to try to make the ends meet, and was fortunate to buy it back from the gentleman in California where we came from in the mid-70s. So this car has been in our family for, my gosh, I don't know, 50, 60 years. And we've used it in we've used it in commercials, we've used it in the showroom, we use it in parades. In fact, at Christmas, we put it in our front yard and put Santa, Mr. and Mrs. Claus in it, in some packages and decorated up. So and my parents did that, and we've done it. It's the kind of cornerstone of the collection.
Well, it's beautiful, as is a 37 Chev that's sitting in there. Let's go take a look at that.
All right, great. Let's go inside.
All right. Greg, this 37 Chev is beautiful, nice four-door sedan. Looks very original. Tell us about it.
It is. It is an original car. It's a desert car, a great desert color. As you can see, the interior in the car is original. The car has been repainted, but it is what I would call in the Corvette vernacular, it's a survivor. And that's kind of what we've kept it. And I know there's a big debate in our hobby today about what's the proper approach. And this is a car that my father got, and we wanted to keep it and preserve it the way it is, because that's kind of cool, I think.
And the interesting thing is that 10 years ago, if you had this, if it was over-restored, it would get a bunch of money. If it was not restored at all, it wouldn't get as much. Now the leaving them original, the survivor thing, is so popular that the value of the survivors is sneaking up real close to the restored ones. So it's kind of don't restore them.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. You have to have the proper car to do that with, obviously. But you're right. People are doing that now, and I think they're getting into it now. You see people with street rods having rat rods where they're trying to keep that more original, and even go into the extent where they go overboard trying to make it look older than it is. So there's a lot of emerging trends, but this car is a good example of a 37 Chevy that is the way it came out of the factory.
When you have people come in your collection, do they make a beeline for the Corvettes or beeline for the Tri-5 Chevs, or does this get as much appreciation as those do?
Unfortunately, they go to the Corvettes usually. It depends on the age of the group. Sometimes the group, they do come down to the older cars first, but generally they're kind of taken back by the Corvettes and some of the muscle cars and some of those. But I think it depends on what kind of group you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mentioned Tri-5. You have a nice 57 Nomad over there that's pretty much, if you're going to have a 57 Chev, if it's not a convertible, the wagon, the Nomad, is pretty cool to have.
A Nomad is a great way to go. It's a 3-year run of cars, and obviously it was a 2-door station wagon, but my father had good thought in that he was able to get one of each. So we have a real nice collection of those, and they're all stock appearing. So
well, let's go take a look.
Let's go on over there.
All right. 57 Chev Nomad, one of the best looking cars to come out of the 50s. What a great car.
It's an iconic car. The 5, 6, and 7 Chevys have always gotten so much notoriety, and it's interesting because each one of the years was totally different, Lance. And I don't know, maybe the 7's not the most popular one, but certainly you can pick it out in a crowd with those fins on it.
Yeah, well, I think nowadays it's the most popular. Back then they were a little confused, I think, on the market on this, right? It's like, we'll make a sexy station wagon, but people with wagons wanted a wagon, not a sexy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there was some of that. I mean, there was a Corvette variation of it too, so they weren't quite sure what they were doing, but I think it was an interesting test, and obviously it was successful, and it seemed to work, and got some interest in that group of Chevrolets. And when they were doing one-year body styles, which we don't, unfortunately, we don't have today. It was kind of cool because it was a big thing every year to see what the new Chevy was. The 58 obviously was much different than the 57. So.
Yeah. Well, I remember the dealerships having the paper over their windows, and you couldn't, till September, whatever, the date, you couldn't go there to look at that new car.
Absolutely.
So they took that paper down. So, and all the special people got a preview look. So what's it like? You're obviously a Chevrolet dealer. What's the world of selling new cars like these days?
Well, it's getting better, fortunately. Our company was unfortunately one along with Chrysler, very well could have gone out of business, and the government saved us. And we're very grateful because during that time we could have very well been out of business, and probably 2 million plus people would have been out of business. Politics aside, from that time to this time, things have gradually gotten better. And when you think about it, back then in 2007, we were selling 16, 17 million cars. We went down as low as 10 million. So the point is, there's a lot of cars on the road today and trucks that need to be replaced. And that's what we're seeing, a little benefit of that. The consumer's still not there yet, not quite sure about what the job prospects are and how things are going, but definitely some of those 11-year-old cars got to be replaced. So we're fortunate to be here for that.
So you give me a great trade-in on my 50 Studebaker?
I would give you a wonderful trade-in on it.
I bet.
I'm always selling, right?
Right.
That's part of the business.
Yeah,
we sell all the time.
And does your crystal ball say that General Motors, Chevrolet, is going to come out with anything resembling a Nomad, a two-door wagon in the future, or that's not going to work anymore? I mean, the Camaro, they sure pulled it off with that.
They hit the ball out of the park with the Camaro.
Yeah.
I think we'd all agree. It's interesting, Lance. I know they've had some variations, some concept cars that they've tried on that. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I think it's great that later this year we're going to have the new SS, which is a V8 rear drive car coming, the car they're using in NASCAR now. They started this year, and to have that car, that's going to be a performance, which we haven't had since 1996, a performance four-door Chevrolet. So I think that's very cool.
57 Corvettes, any Corvette, I don't care what year it is, I love them. The 50s era, they're beautiful. It seems like about 56 and for sure 57, they really started figuring out what they were, and were kind of a hot rod rather than a sports car or whatever. But tell us about this one.
Yeah, this is it's obviously a 57. It's a 283 fuel car. It's kind of original. Well, it's original in that all the body parts we've restored it obviously, but it's original in that the approach we've taken. But what's kind of unique about this car is that it's white, and you find very few white ones.
You mentioned off camera to me about the Bloomington Gold thing. What's that about?
Yeah, Bloomington Gold is what I would refer to that is a way to go about getting your pedigree for your car if you're a dog person. You know, I'm a dog guy, and I've got, you have the papers for the dog, so it's kind of the same thing. What it does is you take your car, and it's a very extensive inspection, and the judges check, there's 5 different areas they check of the car, and it takes about a day to do it. And then when you get through that, and hopefully you come through on the other side, you then get a certification that says you're Bloomington Gold certified, which not only makes you obviously feel good about what you've got, but also helps the value of the car. So it's a really good thing to do, and you see a lot of people doing it today. And when they go about selling cars, Lance, if they have a Corvette, they'll say, hey, my car was Bloomington Gold certified, so it adds to the value of the car.
It's kind of the Pebble Beach of the Corvette world.
It is. It's one of the 2 shows that you really want to go to if you're in the Corvette hobby, and go through that process. It's a tough deal to go through. It's not easy. I mean, they're not easy on you, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. 57,
was that the year when everybody, I'm asking the question, if people decided, these Corvettes, this is going to work, they're going to stick around? And was that the year when they really started taking off in sales and respect and all that, or it was a little rocky in the beginning?
The first 3 years of the Corvette, that was a struggle, as you point out, Lance, and I don't know if Chevrolet thought they were really going to have a viable car that people would buy. Frankly, it was a kit car by today's standards. But when you get into 56 and 57 like this car, it really turned into a real car. Zora Duntov got very much involved and was racing these cars and had a great deal of success with it. So that's kind of when the car took off. And today, from a collector's standpoint, a 57 is one of the Corvettes that you really want to have, and it's pretty obvious. It's a pretty cool car to look at.
The other Corvette you really want to have, or at least this guy really wants to have, is right there. 63 Corvette split window. In my mind, that's the coolest Corvette that you can own. So can we take a look at it?
Let's go.
All right. I love the body style. And this style was around for a while, but the split window of the 63 and the rib going down the top onto the trunk, I think is such a beautiful touch on this car. It just really stands out. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, it's interesting that when people, I love my passion in Corvettes is 1963 through 1967, and most people like yourself, Lance, like the 63 for how you described it, which you did really well. I myself like the 67 because the car evolved and it's just a better driving car. But the 63 got us all started, Zora did with this car, and the styling and the interior in the car is another thing. A guy yours and my size, we can get in there and be comfortable and drive that car, and you really feel like you're in a sports car, but it's comfortable doing it. So this car today, a 63 today, because again the anniversary coming, has gotten very popular again. It's interesting, there were people in 63 and 4 that actually removed that bar.
Whoops.
Yeah, well, that would have been a big whoops, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I wonder how many of those got reversed. And of course, what we're referring to is the split there. Well, I'll make mine look like a 64 and get rid of that. And
right.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Yeah. What's the power plant on this one?
This one's a 327, 300 horsepower, so it's one of the smaller engines, but still it's a V8, and it's got Detroit V8 muscle, which is, it goes plenty well. It goes great.
Does this cut across the market in that if you went to a Concours or a Rat Rod or a traditional or the shopping mall and somebody saw you in the parking lot, does everybody embrace this car?
Yeah, they do. This body style, I think probably more of all the Corvettes they do. And again, as you point out with the 63 and the split window, it is an attention getter. It, absolutely.
walked in here when we arrived, looking around, got to this car, no recognition, no, I knew nothing about. It says 200 limited edition Duntov Turbo. What do we have here?
You have a very unique car, and for me to stump you on it, Lance, that surprised me, because I can tell you know your cars and your trucks. This was a car that Zora Duntov lent his name to back in the early 80s, and the intent was to build 200 of these cars. It is obviously a convertible, so they removed the top. It has a package, a fender package, quarter and fenders of glass, so it's kind of got the IMSA look to it, wide tires and wheels, with a turbocharger and a small block engine. So this was a car that, and actually was the first time he had to go through a lot of trouble to get General Motors to allow him to do that. So this was the first time in my knowledge that they allowed someone. Today it's quite common, you see all these kind of edition cars. This was probably one of the very first, if not the first, and with Zora's name on it, it was special.
Zora Duntov, for the viewers that don't know, he was an engineer at Chevrolet, and they said, go work on this Corvette thing, and he became the god or the godfather of Corvettes, correct?
Yeah, he would be the god of Corvettes. If you follow that hobby, you definitely know who he is. And he had a lot of innovations that he put in cars that we see in regular passenger cars today. There were things that he designed.
Mm-hmm. The 63 that we just looked at, is the story true that he insisted on that split window and that rib, and everybody else didn't want to do it? They said, okay, we'll do it for 1 year, and then it goes away. Is that a true story?
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, who really knows what the true story is? But yeah, I've heard that one too.
Okay. Something hanging down in your upholstery. What is that?
Well, this car is quite interesting, and today people would look at it and go, wow, that's velour. Well, that's what actually Zora had done, and this was a part of the seats, and it has a velour interior in it. Totally, this car is totally correct the way my father got it in 1980, right to the original tires that are on the car.
And that's just a little added back support there, or
I guess
or
I'm not quite sure. It's kind of different, but it lends itself to the story of the car.
Yeah, maybe it's a hat, so if it starts raining, you always have something handy there.
There you go.
Yeah. Probably not. Greg, we don't usually do anything this new. This is a 2002 Camaro, but it, like the Duntov Corvette, I'm stumped. I don't know who Harrell is. Dick Harrell on here. I don't know any. What do we have? Obviously, it's special.
Well, we stumped you twice today,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I felt good about that. It is a special car. 2002 was the last Camaro before it took a little hiatus until we had the 2010 that we've talked about today. And Dick Harrell was a very famous drag racer in the 60s and 70s with Chevrolet. And GMMG, who did this car, who I got it through Matt Murphy, or who was the builder of the car, but I got it through Berger Chevrolet in Grand Rapids, which is a very iconic dealership group that's been known for Chevy performance for a long time. This is quite a car. It's got 600 horsepower under the hood.
So this is all about going fast.
It is.
Is it about going fast straight ahead, or does it, go around corners good too?
It does. It has good suspension package. It has an upgrade on the brakes and on the suspension, so it does both.
If you take this to a Camaro show, does everybody get really excited, or does that crowd know what's up here?
I think they would know, absolutely they would know. You won't see very many of these. There were, I think, 32 of them built. This is number 28. So this again had somewhat like the Duntov that we just looked at, has the body package, front and rear fenders, along with lowering the car. So it's got a serious look to it. It's a performance car. It's easy to tell that.
Yeah. So 427, but it has, what'd you say? How much?
Somewhere in the vicinity of 600. Who really knows?
Yeah.
You know.
This is just I don't go out and buy new cars very often, or newer cars, but this would be on my list. This is pretty special, and the numbered edition, that kind of makes it even extra special. So.
Well, and I would agree. The other thing that, to me, that one of the reasons why I did this, because I wasn't sure we were going to have a Chevy Camaro again. 2002 was the last year, as we've talked about. So in my mind, I thought, you know what, I got to get the special, the supercar of all Camaros, and make sure I have one to put away, because I'm not sure if Chevrolet is going to come back to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are certainly glad that we came here to see your collection. It's very hospitable of you to allow us to come through here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great to have you here.
Thank you, and thanks for, I get a little education here today. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
All right, and thank you very much for watching the Vintage Vehicle Show. If you weren't watching, we wouldn't have a show. So we appreciate that, and we will see you again next time. So until then, bye-bye.